Okay. We're going to start today on Samach Dalet Amud Beis by Amar Rav Yehuda. It's like really in the middle of the page. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Can we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day? And the schus of our learning, we should have the base of English immediately. And we're learning Lilinish Master Samus Ben Benzian and for Shlema for everyone that needs. And for Eretz Yisrael, everything should be safe. The starts like this. We're discussing Melech, and that's a father giving his son over to the priests of this idol of Molech, and they would pass him over a fire. Well, it says he's only chayv if he does it in the way that was normal to pass him over. Now, like what exactly is that normal way of passing over? Well, Hechidami, how was that case? Amar Abaya says Shraga delivni b'mitzi. Now, I always thought Shraga was a candle, like Shraga Hameir is a burning candle. Here, apparently, I don't have a gestural here. Apparently, Shraga means a row. That's what Rashi's translating. It's a row of bricks, and there's a fire on each side. The nura is the fire, right? Shragad livni b'mitzi, nura mihagis, and there's a fire on each side. So what are they doing? Are they walking him on the bricks, or they're walking him over the both fires? So I assume they're walking on this. Yeah.
Remember, from the description, I'll read it to you. A column of bricks is set up in the center, with a fire on this side of it, and a fire on that side of it. The child is passed over it.
That doesn't help my.
No, it seems like they have a row of bricks and they walk on someone walks on the row of bricks and you have fire on both sides of the bricks, and if they fall into the fire.
Okay, because I have that wording in the Aramaic as well. I just the pronoun it, he's passed over it. Is that the wall, or is that both the wall, fire, and other fire? So I'm assuming it means the wall, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Passed over the wall. Okay. Does it spell that out? That the it is the wall?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. Well, let's assume that it means the wall. Rav Amar, that's Abaya's interpretation. Rav Amar kimashvarta de Puria. This is like the jumping of Purim. Now, apparently there was a pit, and they would put in this pit. They would light a fire in it, and they would jump over it on Purim. That was fun. Don't try that at home, right? But that's what they would do. They would be jumping over. According to Rav, they'd be jumping over a fire in a pit. Okay. Tanya Kavasei Rav. We have a brisa that supports Rava. He's only chayev. He's only chayev over here, which is Melech, which is a death penalty, right? He's only chayev if it's he does it in the normal way. If you're a beregel, if he goes by foot, then he's pater. Now, if you're a beregel, means that he's just walking. According to Rava, he has to be jumping. So you see, he's pater if he just walks. And then it goes on. It says he's only chayev if he brings his descendants over this fire. What do it mean descendants? But no, Yobita is chayev. If it's his son or his daughter, then he's chayev. That's a descendant, right? But if it's his father, his mother, his brother, or his sister, then he's going to be pater. That's not a descendant. It's a relative. It's not a descendant. If he brings himself over it, pater, then he's going to be exempt. From this, they bring a proof, by the way, that Melech is not someone that gets burnt by the fire. Because how could it be he brings himself over the fire, he burns himself up, and then we say he's pater? Like, what do you mean pater? He's dead. must mean that this going over the fire is not dying. It's just like fire walking or something, right? Yeah, it's a proof. No. Oh, Mazel Tov.
What?
Very nice.
Wow.
Jonathan's the chassan.
Mazel tov.
Jonathan is here. Very nice. I didn't get any message. I would have worn my other kapata.
Your other white shirt.
Well, tell them we want details.
Yeah, but the details. What are the details? Who's the lucky one?
I'll send the invite.
We'll get the information. Okay. Okay. Very nice. Good news.
It was actually official Arab shop.
Uh-huh.
He wanted to find a nice picture and everything. So
Did you go to the aisle? Is that how you did it?
we wrote to the
You wrote
rabbi.
it?
Yeah, we're going to go actually between now and Friday.
Very nice. Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. So exciting. Okay.
What is the news?
Jonathan is engaged. Hassan.
Yeah.
Ah, Mazel Tov.
Yeah, let's put the camera on Jonathan.
I made it to the shoot though, at least. Baruch Hashem. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's really revealed miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. Like splitting the sea.
Yeah.
It's chocolate.
Okay. Let's see where we're holding. Okay, Hever Atzmi is pater. If he puts himself over the fire, then he's going to be exempt. It has to be only a descendant, not if it's him himself. Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon mechayev. Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon says no, he's chayev if he puts himself over it. We'll see in a moment. What's the explanation? Echad l'maylech v'echad l'shar v'edzar chayev. There's another machlekes there. If he whether he does this for Melech or whether he does this for any other idol, he's chayev. Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon aimer l'maylech chayev shlei l'maylech pater. Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon says only Melech has this prohibition, not other idols. We mentioned this in before that there's a machlekes Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon about this. If this service is a type of worship of Avodah Zarah or if it's some other type of service. Well, Amar Ula my time with Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon. What's the reason for Rabbi Lozer bar Shimon? We're going back to the first machlekes where we said about if he passes himself over the fire. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "La yimatze b'cha," should not find by you. B'cha ba'atzmecha. That means you yourself. Just 1 second. I have to send a message. I'm so sorry. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Let's see. B'cha b'atzma means even if yourself. B'cha means in you. Rabbanan b'cha. Rabbanan. This is in question form. The Rabbanan don't learn from b'cha. They said that if the person himself passes over Melech, person himself passes over Melech, he's exempt. And why don't they learn from b'cha? Vatanan. They do learn from b'cha. In another pasuk, it says in a Mishnah, if there's a lost object. And there's two lost objects, one that belongs to him and one that belongs to his father. So, and he can only return one of them. Which one does he return? So it says, Shalai Kedemus, he takes his own. His own item comes before his father's. And we said, my time, what's the reason for that? Amar Rav Yehuda says, Amar Kra Efes Ki Lo Yeh B'cha Evyin. because there should not be amongst you a poor man. Now, when it says amongst you, b'cha, it's referring to himself, that himself comes first. His own lost item comes before everyone else. He doesn't have to give up on his own item to save his father's item. He has to take his item. Now, they see we learn from b'cha. Why don't the Rabbanan learn from b'cha? If b'cha is a word that you can learn from, why don't they learn from it to say that if he passes himself over the fire, that's considered an obligation of a molech? So it's hasam me'efes. You're making a mistake. You're not over there. They're not learning from b'cha, but they're learning from efes. Efes means so that there shouldn't, as long as, like, so that there shouldn't be. Okay. Which apparently that's an extra word, and that's what they're learning. Amar Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina shalish krisis ba'avodah zara lama. Why do we have 3 times it says the word karis by avodah zara? It says karis and benichrasa. Achas l'kedarka. One tells us that there's karis if he serves it in the normal fashion of serving that idol. Achas l'shalei kedarka. One is telling me that there's karis if he does those types of things which are done in the temple. He does them for the idol. Even if that's not the way of serving the idol, but he sacrificed an animal in front of it, he poured wine in front of it, he did something like that, it's also going to be a karis, excision prohibition. Achas l'mailech, and one of them tells us that there's karis by mailech. But there's one opinion that says mailech, that type of service is worship. Karis by mailech lamali. That is idolatrous worship. So why does it have to say it over there if we know it's idolatrous worship and we know that there's karis by idolatrous worship? It says Lamaver b'noi shlei kedarka. It's talking about when he's doing mailech, but not to the mailech avodah zara, to a different avodah zara. So in other words, he's passing his son over a fire to a different idol, not to the mailech idol. I don't know what the mailech idol looked like. But if he's doing it to it, so now we have shalei kedarka is by the abnormal fashion of serving an idol. Still chayiv. That's what we said before was for slaughtering, for offering incense, for the libation, and also according to one opinion for bowing down in front of it. That was one opinion. It was machlekes if that was Rabbi Akiva, if that was considered an action. Now we have one more. Now we have passing your son over in front of it. Even if that's not the way they did it. So for example, pa'ar. That wasn't the way of serving pa'ar.
Why isn't that included in second shalok kedarka to another?
It is. That is the shalek kedarka.
No, why the molech is saying if you do a molech manner to another idol, that is a shalok kedarka.
That is
to that.
right. That's what we're calling maver b'noi shalei kedarka.
Third item then?
No, because not all shalei kedarkas are going to be. Why is Melech itself a third item? No.
I thought it's kedarka, shalok kedarka,
And then Melech. And then Melech.
And then we asked why molech.
So now we're saying if Melech is avodah zara itself, so you already told me kedarka and shalei kedarka for avodah zara. So why do you have to tell me Melech? Melech is one of them. So we're saying that no, we're adding another type of shalei kedarka to every other idol.
Oh,
Yeah.
adding this.
Yeah. This is an interesting.
Thanks, Hillel. Hillel just texting. Yeah.
This is an interesting discussion over here that when it says megadif, which meant to blasphemy, we were saying that meant to curse Hashem. Now, it's not so clear that's really what it is. There's a Gemara and somewhere else in Krisis that has a machlekes about this. What is that verse referring to? So one says that it doesn't mean to curse Hashem; it means to worship idols. So why does it have to say karis over there by megadif if we now have karis by all other idolatrous worship? Look at the Tanya that we have for a brayso. It says ikaris tikaris, you shall surely be cut off. Ikaris b'elam hazeh, tikaris leilam haba. That means that's telling me in this world and in the next world. Karis Beilam Hazeh means he's cut off in this world. That means that I guess he dies young, and Beilam Haba means he doesn't have the world to come. Yeah, that's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says, "Well, it already says v'nichrasa." Now, apparently, Rabbi Shmuel is not arguing with Rabbi Akiva here. He's just right. Yeah, he's actually ignoring what Rabbi Akiva is saying. He's saying there's a machlekes between Rabbi Akiva if Megadif means cursing Hashem, blasphemy, or if Megadif means idolatrous worship. Now, Rabbi Shmuel holds that it's idolatrous worship. So he says, but I already have b'nichrasa by idolatrous worship. So why does it have to say Ikaris Tikaris? If it means this world and the next world, he's asked, are there three worlds? No, the question isn't on Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Akiva doesn't have a problem with this b'nichrasa because he says Megadif is something else. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, that Megadif is a type of Avodah Zarah. Now it has 3 times karis. So rather, Rabbi Shmuel says, and tikaris, that extra expression, the Torah speaks in the language of man. That's a Rabbi Shmuel comment. We have that in many places. But Rabbi Shmuel says that when you have a double expression, you can't learn from that double expression. That's a typical manner of speaking. Okay. Next Mishnah Samachay. Bal Oiv. This is translated as necromancy. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Necromancy. And it's
Necromancy is someone who does.
he does something. He speaks with the dead.
Oh, speaks with the dead.
Is that Pisaim Hamadaber Mishachi? I don't know what Pisaim is. It's a name of what? I don't know. What are these? What's Pisaim?
Pitom is a necromancer.
No, that's what they call a necromancer?
Mhm.
Okay, it's another word for an oiv. Yadaini. What is Yadaini? Those are 2 names that are used in the Torah for this type of witchcraft. Zamadaber Bepiv. This is someone that speaks from his mouth. Now, what this means is that he's not actually speaking. He puts a bone in his mouth, and this bone talks from on its own.
What kind of bone? Like,
We'll see.
it's
We'll see,
really an animal.
Yeah,
Really?
it's a type of. We'll see. It's an animal. Dr. Stein doesn't believe this. I won't use his expression though. Hareyelo Beskila. These are
No, I said
stones.
what they're doing is.
Machlekes.
Machlokes?
Yeah.
Swan.
The Rambam holds that it's all fake,
Really?
See,
Yeah,
I
I heard
always
that.
hold by
Yeah, I heard
Rambam.
that.
but the
Yeah?
Ramban
Rambam
holds that
holds
it's
it.
real.
I hold by Rambam.
The thing is, I heard like the Gross says like it's all mamish like real, like
Right.
take everything literally,
Yeah.
like the shade and all this. Rambam Kasim, it's not the case. I think someone in the middle said like because the Gross said that, or sorry, the Rambam said that it's not really real. Therefore, all these like spirits.
No,
Really?
he just said the Rambam says it is
The
real.
I
Ramban.
know.
The Ramban. This is real. The
Ramban.
Rambam says that it's not.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Oh, so Rambam says fake.
Because someone said it wasn't real.
Uh-huh.
It's like hidden from us. It's
Uh-huh.
still there.
Yeah. Yeah. The rationalists. But I have to tell you that people that are married are usually not rationalists. You have to drop.
After many years.
You have to drop all the rational. It only explains half of life. It doesn't explain everything.
It explains why you're always wrong.
Okay, so Hareyelu Beskila. That's the dev. Initial ben Bazara, but that's a funny expression. Initial Bahem. It means Hashoyel Bahem. Someone that initial is the one that's being asked. Initial Bahem. It means the one that's asking, but it uses a funny expression. Rashi says to go in Shaul, like Shaul that came to the woman to ask, to speak to Shmuel. So the one that
Well,
asks
maybe
is
if
only a
you-
negative prohibition, but the magician himself gets skila. Okay, over here we have a baloiv and we have a yedaini, and the Mishnah describes it. We have a Mishnah in Krisus which says that someone could get 30. There's 36 possibilities of Krisus. Someone could do all of these things, so he's going to get 36 Krisus. Well, over there it lists oiv and it doesn't list yedaini. So why doesn't it list Yedani if those are independent possibilities for Krisus? Rabbi Yechanan says, since the pasuk says, "Al tifnu ela oives vela yedainim," do not turn to oiv or yedani, and the do not is only once. So that means that if someone would do both of those together, he won't get twice the punishment, or if it's shagig, you won't have to bring a chatas twice. Because it's only one verse that says do not, so he'll only have to bring one. So therefore, that Mishnah over there that was describing 36 creases was talking about someone that does all of them in one forgetting. So you're only going to bring one. So it says it only lists it under oiv. I'm just going to ask in a minute, so why didn't list it under Yadaini? Why oiv? Yeah, that's something else. That's an idol. This is the witchcraft type stuff. That's a Rabbi Yechanan's view. The reason why there's no sacrifice for Yadaini is because there's no action for Yadaini. Now, what does it mean there's no action? Apparently, you put the bone in your mouth, and the bone talks on its own. You didn't do anything. Why not putting?
Lewis.
Who's Sherry Lewis? Ventriloquist?
Yeah. Throwing it.
And we're getting the whole mishpacha here. Okay. So why is putting in the mouth not the action? I don't know. Anyway, the Gemara goes through this. The Gemara says, okay, Rabbi Yechanan, Maishna Baloiv Tanakat. So according to Rabbi Yechanan, why does it say oiv? If both of them are independent, if you do one of them, there's going to be a carbon. Each one, it doesn't matter which one. If you do both of them together, there's only one carbon. So why did it list it under oiv? It could have listed it under Yadaini. So the answer that it says Mishum the pasuk Beikra, because that was the first mention in the pasuk. It says Al tifnu ela oivos vela Yadainim. So we took the first one. We would have taken the second one. You would have said, why didn't you take the first one? We took the first one. That's the one that is going to get listed on there. Rish Lakish, my time why doesn't Rish Lakish say this? That there's one verse. Amar of Papa Chalukanim b'misa. Papa says, he's explaining Rish Lakish. He says that since there is a different verse, when it comes to the death penalty, it says, Kiya bahem oiv oyidaini moishimasu. It doesn't say oiv v'yidaini. It says oiv oyidaini. It says or. That extra or divides it up. Tells me that since they have different death penalties, independent. So then that pasuk would also tell me that they should have different karbanos. Why don't they have different karbanos? Back to the Gemara, to the Mishnah in Krisus, says there's 36 kares. Why isn't Yadaini listed? Well, that's because there's no action. But to use Rabbi Yechanan's answer that because there's one prohibition, that wouldn't work because there's two punishments. Because it says oiv Yadaini. It has the or in there, which makes it both independently. Okay. Rabbi Yechanan chalukah the lab shmei chalukah the misalesh shmei chalukah. Rabbi Yechanan says that wouldn't tell me that there's different sacrifices if the misa has different is divided. The only way there would be different sacrifices is if the prohibition was divided, and it doesn't. By the prohibition, it says al tifnu al oivis ve'al hayadainim. It doesn't say oy hayadainim. Okay. Rabbi Yechanan my time alayam Rish Lakish. Why doesn't Rabbi Yechanan say like Rish Lakish that says that there's no action there? It says, Amalach, it would say to you, must listen to Krisus, Rabbi Akiva, Darmalai bin Maisa. He says that Mishnah in Krisus is following the view of Rabbi Akiva that doesn't require an action for there to be a sacrifice. Rish Lakish, Nehid Delay by Rabbi Akiva Meiser Rabba, Meiser Zuta by. Okay, it could be Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Akiva doesn't require a large action, but you need some action. And Yudaini is not even an action, not any, even a slight action. The Gemara says, but over there it's listed Megadif. Blasphemy. What my Seika? What did I do? Right? This person will say, all I did was say this and that. I didn't do anything. Right? Megadif. It says Akimas Vasav Abimaisi. It says, no, you said it. You moved your lips. That's an action. Right? In school they say, would you get me into trouble for something I didn't do? I say no. I say, well, I didn't do my homework.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bal Oiv, my Seika. What action is there for Oiv? What does he do over there? Hakashas Reisav Avimaisi, he has to bang his arms. Apparently, it speaks from the armpit, but in order to get it to start working, he has to ramp it up. He has to bang his arms to something, yeah, something like that, like a chicken. Maybe he has to put something in his armpit. I don't know. No, he bangs his arms. Okay. Now the Gemara says, Vafilu l'Rabbanan, would the Rabbanan say that that's considered an action? Because there's a machlekes over here about bowing, right? By if bowing was an action, Rabbi Kiva held it was, and the Rabbanan held that it wasn't. So here he's moving his arms. Is that considered an action? Enough of an action? You didn't move an object. You didn't pour something. You didn't do it. There's no object. It's just the person's moving his body. Is that really an action? But Tanya, we have a brisa that says he's only chayiv for idolatry if he does an action. He has to slaughter, burn incense or pour a libation or bow down. Who's the one that says Rabbi Kiva? It's Rabbi Kiva. Because you don't need an action, and the Rabbanan hold that you do need an action. So how could you be that this could be the Rabbanan? So 1 second before we get there. Rabbi Yechonah Afil Tamer Rabbanan could be the Rabbanan. Kfifas Kamas Rabbi Maisa. The Rabbanan hold that bowing is considered an action. But Hashtal Reish Lakish Kfifas Kamas Rabbanan Rabbi Maisa. If the Rabbanan Tzugazan, if the Rabbanan hold that bending his waist, is not considered an action, so Akashas Reis of the Balev Rabbi Maisa is banging his arms for Oiv. Is that considered a Maisa? We're saying over here that Oiv is a Maisa, Yedani is not. What's that? What's the Maisa? What's the action of Oiv by this necromancy? We say, he said bangs his arms. It says, but the Rabbanan hold that bowing is not an action. Why should banging the arms be an action? So Kikam Reish Lakish Nami Rabbi Kiva Rabbanan Lai. In order to answer this, we have to say that Reish Lakish was only referring to the Rabbanan, but not according. I was only referring to Rabbi Akiva, but not according to the Rabbanan. According to the Rabbanan, this actually wouldn't be an action. Yachi, that's the case. That we don't have an action for Megadif. No, Megadif is only Rabbi Akiva, right? That we said Megadif was Rabbi Akiva. Because it has Akimas Vasa. Yudaini is not an action. Oiv is an action only according to Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara says, if Ihachi Yatsa Megadif Ba'aleid Mi Ba'aleid. We have a source that says that according to the Rabbanan, Megadif won't be an action. Second, I missed that. Oops. This is no good. 1 second. Let's job slow. Missed the message here. 1 second. He's falling to the usual service. Even under the usual service, it still needs to be an action. Still needs to be an action. If it's only following Rabbi Akiva, but the Rabbanan don't have Megadif, they also don't have Oiv. Why did it say the Rabbanan don't have Megadif? It should have said the Rabbanan don't have Megadif and Oiv. The Elamar Ula explains b'makter l'sheid. Ula's explaining that Mishnah increases that says that there would be a punishment of either kares or b'shegig. There would be a chatas. The Rabbanan would agree to that because what you needed to do is they had to make an offering to a demon. Amalei Rava. So Rava says to Ula. Ula was the traveler, and what Ula is trying to do is he's trying to make that Mishnah should fit according to the Rabbanan. He's adding an action in. So the Rava says, that's idolatry to offer a sacrifice to the demon. Elama Rava says, the makter lechaver, talking about that it wasn't to a god, it wasn't to something that could be considered a god. What it's doing is he's trying to gather animals together, and he offers a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. He does this incense or somehow, not as a worship, but as a way of getting all the animals to come together. Amalei Abaya says, 1 second. There's another prohibition of doing this witchcraft, of gathering these animals in this witchcraft way. That's a makter lechaver, is chayver chaveru. That's one of the other types of sorcery, witchcraft, that's not allowed. Where it says in, you're right. He's saying that what the Gemara was asking, that it's chayver chaver, and this should not be the case of the sacrifice. This is only a negative prohibition. The Gemara answers no. When chayver chaver, that type of gathering animals together, which is a type of sorcery, when it's done in this way, it's actually a death penalty. And if there's a death penalty on it, then there would also be a sacrifice if it was done unintentionally. So we've just explained how the Mishnah increases would have oiv, because it's a different category. That oiv is someone that is doing this offering to gather those animals. Okay, Taner Rabbanan, Taner Abraisa, Chayver Chaver. We're gathering chaver, or the chaver gathers. Echad chaver gadol, echad chaver katan. Whether he's gathering big animals or small animals. I feel in the chashma akravim, even if it's snakes or scorpions. What are the big animals? Rashi says the wild animals. What are the small animals? They're like creeping creatures.
I saw Mufasa with.
Well, perspective.
What was that?
I saw Mufasa with.
Oh, I'm hearing about Mufasa now.
That's a lot.
From Dr. Stein.
But it's that must be new. Is that a new
Just
type of?
came out. All I know is it costs $30 to go sit.
That's something new. It's not from the.
Not from the Gemara.
It's not from the Gemara. Okay. It could be snakes and scorpions, and where would he gather them? He would gather them to get rid of them. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, someone that brings together a wasp and a scorpion, even though his intention is just not so that he doesn't get damaged by it, is still prohibited, because that goes under the prohibition of chayver chaver. Unless it's life-threatening, then he's allowed to do this. We have a question according to Rabbi Yochanan. Going back, we said that if he bows down, that's considered, according to the Rabbanan, that's also considered a Maisa. He said Reish Lakish held that it was only according to Rabbi Akiva, bowing down was considered an action. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, we said before that bowing is considered an action. If that's the case, so if bowing is an action, Akimas Vasav, why is Akimas Vasav, moving the lips, not considered an action? Amarava, Rava explains, Shani Megadav Hayel V'Yeshnem Belev. What we're doing now is we're saying that even though he's moving the lips by Megadif, he said Megadif is not considered an action according to the Rabbanan, but he's moving the lips, that should be an action. If the Rabbanan hold that bowing is an action, so moving the lips is also. So he moves his jaw, like moving his waist. So he says no, because it has to do with what he has intention. The intention is the main thing. Now the Gemara is going to ask 1 second. Bowing also is intention. Let's 1 second. Masiv Reb Zera. Reb Zera says, Yatsu Eidim Zaymim Shem Ben Maisa. Says that there's a bunch of things that require a sacrifice. And it says but with an exception to that is Eidim Zaymim. If Eidim Zaymim, they don't, if their witnesses are caught because testifying and they weren't even there, other witnesses come and say that, how could you say this? You weren't even there. So we do to them what they wanted to do, but they don't have to bring a sacrifice. They don't have to bring the chatas. Why don't they have to bring the chatas? It says because they don't have an action. It says 1 second. We said that when it comes to speech, speech could be an action, unless the main part of that speech, that would be the prohibition, is your intention of the heart. But when it comes to testifying, we don't care about what's in their heart. The fact is they said the words. So that should be considered an action. Amarava, Shani Edim Zaymim, Hayel V'Yeshnem B'Kol. Says the action is not the moving of the lips, which is the enunciating. The action is the breath that comes out that makes it loud so that the court can hear what he's saying. And we're dividing up the two parts of speech, of the enunciating the words or the projecting the voice.
These are aging that like
conspiring witnesses, yeah. No, whatever they're conspiring, doesn't matter what they're saying, but they're false.
Okay.
So the color of Yechanan Lav Maisahu. So okay, now you're telling me that over here it's the voice, it's not the enunciating, it's the projecting the voice. But Rabbi Yechanan holds the voice is also an action. Why? How do we know that? By Itmar, we have a statement like this: Chisma b'kol v'niga b'kol. Here we're talking about if someone puts two animals together, you're not allowed to put a yoke on two different animals. They have to be the same. Have to use the same animal, right? So, right? Or else it's cruel. It's cruel. Right?
Zebra and giraffe.
Yeah, it says a zebra and a giraffe. You can't do that. So, but here it would be like a cow and a sheep or something. So, if the prohibition would be once you make it move, once you start it to walk together. Now, let's say he doesn't pull it along, but instead he just yells at it, and that's what makes it. No, it sucks him. It sucks. I'm sorry, I'm making a mistake. Sorry, I'm making a mistake. I'm mixing up these halachas. Mixing up this is not talking about putting the animals together. This is talking about muzzling an animal when it's threshing. This is chasima is to muzzle it when it's threshing. I'm sorry, that's what I was saying before is not correct. So if he hinhiga bakal, that's what hinhiga bakal is. I'm sorry. There's two cases here. One is the muzzling, and one is the leading it together with another animal. So when it comes to the muzzling, let's say it's about to eat, and then you scream at it so it stops it. You scare it off. So that means you could have put something around its mouth block it from eating while it's threshing. So that would be a prohibition. But instead, he didn't put something on his mouth. He just yelled at it to stop it. That's also a prohibition. However, Rabbi Yechon Amar Chayev. Rabbi Yechon says that that's Chayev, and Rish Lakish Amar Pater. Rish Lakish says that no, that's not considered an action. It's not considered an action, so he's going to be Pater because he didn't do anything. He just yelled. Rabbi Yechon Amar Chayev. Rabbi Yechon says Chayev Akimas Piv Avimaisa because Rabbi Yechon holds that moving of the lips is considered an action. Rish Lakish Amar Pater Akimas Piv Le'avimaisa. We're back to the problem. We said that there's a difference by Yedim Zaymemen because it's the projection of the voice. And projection of the voice, everyone holds is not an action. It's not true. Rabbi Yechon holds projecting the voice is an action. Elam Rava says Shani Yedim Zaymemen Hayel V'Yeshna Beriya. Very interesting shot over here from Rapai going. He says that Edom Zayman is because it's not because of their testimony, it's because of their testimony of what they saw. And what they saw is not an action. Looking is not an action. Speaking is an action, but looking is not an action. Rav Haigain says that no, there's no action in saying the words iya, because you don't have to move your lips when you say iya. It's coming straight from the throat without any lips. Get it? Say iya. So you don't move your lips when you say iya. Now iya apparently means like me too or something. It's correct. So what is it? Yeah. So what he's saying is that his testimony could possibly be given without saying a full word, without saying consonants. You see that on the side, the iya as opposed to ria. I have on the side of my Gemara. It says Hayel v'yeshna b'ria. The Gemara says on the side of the Gemara it says Hashem Rabhai. He had a girsa of Hayel v'yeshna b'ia.
They spell it A-Y-E here.
So,
they have the interpretation. They bring that. I. Okay.
so what's he saying that looking itself is not?
Looking at either it's
out.
looking is not the action, or that type of word is not an action.
Daf Yomi done halakhic shir, by the way.
No, no, because I'm thinking of the Biyama
This is the guy who has a beat.
if you don't turn.
Yeah, that's why there's probably no sacrifice for someone that looks at something that's supposed to.
By the way,
As long
not
as
an
it
action.
just stops there.
No, even if he doesn't stop.
Joey Smith, just watch out here. This is the guy who has a Hollywood beach house.
He's
No, if there's no action, there's no sacrifice, and no malchus.
he didn't do it.
He didn't do anything. He just looked. That's nothing. So here we're saying that the looking is the testimony was that he saw something. So that's why it's not an action. Now, whatever there's what to discuss about that. But the other interpretation is that all he had to say was iya, means like correct or me too or something.
Well, then we learned in the multiple Adam where the second one's don't have to repeat. They just say, yeah, me too. That's what he said.
Right. I have a question on the what's the song? Very kaisim lachem bracha ad b'li dai. And then it finishes off. It says ad sheyivlis if sesechem leimer dai. So the lips are worn out from saying die.
Oh wow! I also thought of that.
But die requires.
Die doesn't require but it doesn't require the lips. It only requires the tongue. Die.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Oh, this is getting
Whenever I see
very
that song, I always
linguistic.
worry about
Yeah.
Anyway,
that.
okay. Tan Rabbanan, we start in the Brisa. Baal Oiv. What is a Baal Oiv? Zamadaber bein aprakim umi bein atzila yadav. What's atzila yadav? His elbows or his armpit?
The joints and armpit.
Armpit. Atzila yadav is his armpit. The Baal Oiv is getting this deceased to speak either from his joints or from his armpit. Yadaini, what is the Yadaini? He puts a bone from a certain animal called Yedua, and that's one interpretation. That's Rashi's pshat. And he puts it in his mouth, and it starts to speak on its own. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Your voice will be like oiv from the coming out of the ground. My love, the mistake it says from the ground. It's coming, the voice. It's not coming from your knuckles, from your arms. It says loy the salak yasabina prakim mistake. It's from the ground, but it comes and it sits on the knuckles or the joints, and it talks from there. But it still speaks quiet. The Gemara was the pasuk was referring to that your voice will be muffled. It says but it's even though it's not coming out of the ground, but it's nevertheless it will still be muffled. Tashima, come and listen. It says Vatemer Ishal Shal Elikim Risi Oidem Minaretz. It says like by God, I see that they're coming out of the ground. That means that when this is the Shmuel was being brought up from the dead. So she said, I see them coming out of the ground, and they're not coming from her knuckles or from her armpit. It says the Yasabena Prakamishtai. I'm sorry, my love it sounds like it's talking from the ground. It says no, it comes onto the knuckles and it speaks from there. Taner Rabbanan, Taner Bryce Bal Oiv, Echeramala B'Sechurei, Bechera Nishal B'Golgoilas. Bal Oiv, whether he brings it onto his Zechurei means his male organ, he brings the dead person, or he asks a skull, talks to a skull. My being Zelazeh, what's the difference between the two of them?
The two brutal.
Hamlet to be in that.
You're right.
Okay, we have a discussion here if it's Hamlet or something else.
No, it is Hamlet.
Okay.
It's not like that.
However, there's a difference between these two ways of sorcery. If he brings him onto his male organ, this deceased, the dead person, then it doesn't come up in his normal way. That rather he comes up head first. And instead of head first, he comes up feet first. And he also doesn't come on Shabbos. But Nishal B'Golgoilas. But if he's asking the skull, then he comes up on it with head first, and he comes up on Shabbos. Now, if you remember from that discussion when Shaul went to the witch because he didn't know if he should go to battle, so he asked the witch to bring up Shmuel. So the rule was that they always come up feet first. They come up upside down, except for the Tzibula. It goes upside down. Okay.
You gotta know you.
But by Shaul, because he was a king, so it came head first. So Shmuel came head first because it was coming to see Shaul. Now the witch, Shaul didn't tell the witch that it's Shaul. So the witch was upset. You lied to me. You're really Shaul. You're really a king. Anyway, apparently, if this is done where it brings it up on the male organ, then it comes up upside down, and it doesn't come on. You can't do this on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. It won't work on Shabbos. But if you ask a skull, then it would come on Shabbos, and it also comes up head first. The Gemara asks right away, Oila lehecha salik. What are you talking about? Comes up. You're talking to a skull. This is not a buried skull. This is the skull is right in front of you. Kamei manach. It's sitting right here. Elaema, not oila kedarke, but oina kedarke. This is probably transcribed because of the person was saying it. And the person said oila, and they said, what did he say? Oila or aina? Right? Because when you in the sound of a lamed and a nun is similar. The other possibility is why this crept in, because a lamed is like a longer letter, and the nun is a long, but that's only an end final nun. Anyway, okay.
Scratch.
Yeah, scratch that. Any kedak v'any b'Shabbos. Rav Shai Lazu Shal Turnus Rafis is Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Turnus Rafis. Familiar with Turnus Rafis? He was a Roman head of I forgot what they called him. One of these like generals of like a governor in Israel, where he would always argue with Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva would always win. In the end, his wife ended up converting and marrying Rabbi Akiva. Tunis Rufus' wife. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, Tunis Rufus.
Because Ronas Hashas has some changes to the DAF starting here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see anything. Let me use your Gemara. Let me see what's happening.
Didn't she like try to seduce him? It's like, I don't want to commit adultery with you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna marry you anyways.
Tunis Rufus for Russia. Okay.
But then there's another one after that that's more interesting.
Okay, so let me see. Tunis Rufus asks Rabbi Akiva, Amar Allah, he says to him, Mayim. Says, what makes this day Shabbos different than other days? Okay, so far so good. Amar Allah, Ma govern. He says, what are you different than anyone else? Amar Allah, he says, like, why are you interlocutor? Interlocutor? Is that like means like a governor or something? Why are you more distinct? So Tunis Rufus says, Amalei the Mari Tzavi says because the master, which means the emperor, that's what he wanted. So he says Shabbos Nami the Mari Tzavi. So the master also wants Shabbos to be different. Amalei Hachi Kamina. This is what I'm saying to you. Mi Yemar the Idna Shabbat. How do you know that today is Shabbos? Maybe a different day of the week. I don't know what he's asking. Maybe we lost track, or maybe what you say is Shabbos is really not Shabbos. So Amar Lo, Nahar Sabati Nechia. He says, well, we can prove from the river. There's a river, Sambatian. Let's see what his note is on that. Sambatian River. Sambatian is mentioned frequently in the Medrash and folk tales. It's mentioned by Josephus and by Pliny, with the former claiming that there is such a spring in the Lebanon mountains.
You're saying during the week it would be very tumultuous, the river, and then on Shabbos.
Yeah, some have identified it with one of the rivers in the Caucasian mountains or in Afghanistan. Okay, so
interloculated just means so it's part of the conversation.
Oh,
I
really?
looked at it, which makes sense.
Oh,
Shabbos, the river would come down, so you go swimming in it.
so Nahar Samad or the necromancer can prove because he can't bring them up on Shabbos. Kibri Shel Aviv Yechiach. Oh, okay, let's see what he says here. He says Tunis Rufus' father can prove that Shein Malashim b'Shabbos, that there's no smoke coming out of it on Shabbos. Apparently, smoke would come out if someone was being burnt in Gehenna. So Tunis Rufus says to him, you have shamed him, you have cursed him, demeaned him, yeah, because he's saying his father's Gehenna. I think I saw somewhere that he was also cursing Tunis Rufus. It doesn't mean klala. Rashi says it doesn't mean curse. It just means a shame. Okay. So why were we bringing this story? We're bringing the story about the oiv coming up on Shabbos, if it works on Shabbos. So Rabbi Kiva told him, yeah, everyone knows Shabbos is Shabbos. You see that the oiv doesn't, the necromancers can't do it on Shabbos. Okay. No, I'm skipping. Shayel oiv, hainu derish lamesim. When someone asks oiv, that means he's speaking to the dead. So what's the difference between the two? So it says derish lamesim kidetanya. Derish lamesim is something else. Derish lamesim is amar avatzmai. This is someone slightly different. This is someone that fasts. He starves himself, and then he goes and he sleeps in the cemetery. So that the evil spirit should come on him, and then some demon, and then they'll be able to
All the weather.
to know the weather, yeah, whatever, and know this with the stocks. When Rabbi Kiva would come to this pasuk, he would cry. If this really works, if someone fasts in order so that the evil spirit should come on him, so the evil spirit comes on him, someone fasts so that this pure spirit should come on him, so all the more so it will come on him. What should we do? Because our sins have caused us that we can't do it. Your sins are separating between you and your God. Okay. Amar Rava. Rava says, if the tzaddik wants, he could create the world. It's only your sins that cause you to be separated from Hashem. Rava, or Rabba, there's two Gersois here, Bara Gavra. He created a Goylam. He made a man. Yeah? Shadra l'kami de Reb Zera. He sent the person to Reb Zera. Yeah,
So he's before the Golem from Prague.
yeah, well before the Goylam from Prague.
That's how they learned how to do it.
My uncle worked in the that's what he said, and he worked in Colombia. It was like a robotics lab, and they asked him, "What do you do?" He says, "I make golems." So
Probably came up with ChatGPT.
it was a long time ago. So Shadil Kamidir Reb Zera, he sent this goylem to Reb Zera. Reb Zera was talking to him, but he didn't answer. Amalei min chavraya, you must be a creation from one of the guys. They couldn't get you to speak. Okay.
Was the reason that the golems could not speak because it was no mishmas?
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah. We don't know much about this. As much as we know from what's his name, Mendy and the Golem, and from Gershon Winkler, right? Remember that book, The Golem? It's all from this other fellow that was known to make fake stories. So anyway, we don't have a lot of information. So Hadalafrach, go back to the dirt. That's Reb Zera sends him back down. Rav Chanina and Rabbi Ishia Yasvi Kol Mali Shabbat Viski B'Sefer Yitzira. Rav Chanina and Rabbi Ishia all Friday they were dealing with the Sefer Yitzira. They created a calf from the Sefer Yitzira, and then they were able to eat it in the lab. Right?
Cheese or not?
That's
Yeah, Yitz's
interesting.
question with cheese. They eat it with cheese.
Jeez.
The first animal cloned.
Right.
So this suya is used in the halakha about laboratory produced meat.
Right. Could be. Yeah. Tanarabanan, okay. Tanarabanan Ma'inain. There's a famous tshuva about using the sky for a minion. That was a famous tshuva. Tzvi or someone had a tshuva about this. Tanarabanan. It's another type of magic, witchcraft. What is it? Reb Shimon Aimer zeh hamaver shiva minei zachar ala ayin. He takes 7 types of semen and he puts it on his eye from different creatures, semen from different creatures. And he puts it on his eye and he's able to do magic. Chachamim Aimrim, yeah, don't try this at home. Chachamim say zeha eichas eseinaim. This is just sleight of hands. He's tricking people. Rabbi Kiva says, Rabbi Kiva says, Oinen means a time, and this is someone that counts the times. And he says, today's a auspicious day to travel. L'machar yafa likach. Tomorrow's an auspicious day to buy. L'mudei arbe shvius chitim yafes. People before the Shemitah, they would say the wheat is good.
But sounds like the stock advisors.
Yeah. Ikure kitnius mehiyais rice. To pull out the roots of the legumes before they go bad. They would say like different things, like what to do. That there was a guy that did stocks. He lived over. He would predict. They called him the prophet, and he predicted based on solar spots.
Is he right or wrong?
He was right until he was wrong. Yeah, you got to get lucky a few times, but it doesn't always work. Then you have to explain why it didn't work. It was cloudy. There's some okay.
Missed the spot.
I went once. Someone convinced me to go to a iridologist. You know what that is? They read your eyes. Anyway, it was so like ridiculous. Anyway, they said you get stomach pains. I said, no, well, not really. I said, well, you're very forgetful. I said, I wouldn't say that. I said, well, when you fast, you get weak. I'm like, yeah, you got it. You got something.
Like the rain is wet.
Very, by the way, that you totally respectful from Marley Smith. So.
Okay. Anyway, I think the chart, she had charts. I think they were upside down. Taner Rabbanan started in the Bryce. Menachesh. What is Menachesh? This is another type of sorcery. Enchanter. Zaimer pite nafal mipiv. He says his bread fell out of his mouth. So that's a bad sign. Makla nafal miyadai, or the stick fell out of his hand. B'nai kairolai me'acharav. His son called him from behind. That's some sort of sign. Oyrev kairolai. He heard a raven was calling. Tzvi hefsika b'derech. A deer passed by him. He thinks that everything is signs. It's all signs for him. Nachash mimina v'shul mismalei. There's a snake on this side, like a black cat. A snake is on his right, or a fox is on his left. Al taskelbi. Don't ask me for money. This is someone that's either tax or tzedakah is asking. Don't start with me. Shacharsu. It's the morning. It's a bad sign to first thing in the morning to ask for to collect the debt or something. Rosh Chodeshu. It's the first day of the month. I don't want to do something like it's a bad sign. Mitzvah Shabbasu. Or it's Mitzvah Shabbos. I don't want to pay back a debt on Mitzvah Shabbos. It means the whole week I'm gonna be paying back debts. I don't think this is
superstition.
Superstition.
Yeah.
So okay. Taner Rabbanan.
So the Gemara just made fun of superstition.
Yeah. Taner Rabbanan, it's the more than made fun. It said it goes under a category of menachesh, which seems to be prohibited. There's another Gemara that in Chulin that says Kol nichash she'ena ke Eliezer eved Avram in a nichash. Yeah, Eliezer said that if a girl gives me water, so then now there's a discussion in that. Was Rabbi Eliezer violating the laws of nichash, or it has to be like him, but he actually didn't violate it because his had logic. Because he was looking for someone with good midas, and so maybe he didn't really violate. Machlekes the Rambam and the Ravid. Taner Rabbanan, leisen achashu, leisen neinu.
Who held that?
I don't remember.
Don't put people on the spot.
I don't know if he remembers.
Don't put people on the spot.
I think the Rambam held that it was considered prohibited, but Eliezer did. I think. Right, it doesn't fit with what you.
No, I like the man.
These are people that they do this enchanting with a weasel, with birds, or with fish. How does he explain? What exactly are they doing? They receive guidance according to what happens. Okay. Next Mishnah. It goes like this. Mechalas Shabbos. Someone that violates Shabbos, davar shachem al sedei nekares val shidgas sechatas. We're talking over here. What we mean to say is that someone that violates Shabbos would get stoning. We're listing the people that get stoned. So what type of person that violates Shabbos gets stoned? It's only if he does something that would be karis, and would if it was intentional, and it was a chatas, sin offering if it was unintentional. That means that it had to be an action. It had to be done with the awareness of what he's doing. Michlal, that implies the Kamid Shabbos Savi Vein Chayavin Leil Shigasichat Leil Zenikaris Mahi. What would not be that? What type of violations of Shabbos would not have that? It says Tchumen V'Alibed Rabbi Akiva. One possibility is that there's a machlekes if Tchumen is a deraisa. Rabbi Akiva holds that it is, but even though Tchumen, you can't walk out of the city 2,000 cubit. Even if it is a deraisa, but Rabbi Akiva holds you still don't have Zedai Karis or a death penalty. It's only a negative prohibition. Or another possibility is Havara V'Alibed Rabbi Yossi. It could be lighting a fire according to Rabbi Yossi. Remember, we had a machlekes before Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Nassan. Why is Havara? Why does lighting a fire have its own prohibition? It's either to tell me that every prohibition of Shabbos has an independent punishment, or it's coming to tell me that this is a more lenient type of malacha, lighting the fire.
Can't be because that's not.
No, they're all deraisa. They're all deraisa. But according to Rabbi Yossi, it's more lenient. You only get it would only be like lashes, but not a karet.
Right, from building Mishkan.
All the other ones are also deraisa. It's derived from building the Mishkan, correct? But all of those have a more strict punishment, and lighting the fire is a more lenient one. That would be that over here there won't be stoning for burning a fire, lighting a fire.
We saw like actual examples.
Gathered wood.
Gathered wood.
Yeah. This is last week's parsha. This would, if we would be up to date, this would have been very significant. There's Ashkacha Pratis here, it's just we didn't experience it. Someone that curses his father and his mother, or his mother, is only chayiv, is only going to get the death penalty, skila, that is, if he curses them with the name of God. Kill him b'kinai. He curses them with a nickname. Meir Mechayev Achampaiter. Meir says that he's Chayev, but what's the nickname exactly? Rashi says he uses another name of Hashem, well, there's two versions here in Rashi. One is Shakai Tzavaka is Chanan Rachem, another one is Chanan Rachem Merach Apayim. Okay, whatever the case is, Reb Meir says Chayev L'cham says Pater. In order to violate this prohibition fully, it would have to be with the name of Hashem, according to the Chachamim. According to Reb Meir, even with a nickname of Hashem. Man Chachamim, who is Chacham? Reb Menachem bar Reb Yossi. It's the opinion of Reb Menachem bar Reb Yossi. Tani was taught in Brayso Menachem bar Yossi Menach b'Shem Yumas. If he curses Hashem, he gets a death penalty. Mata Amalem Hashem. Why does it have to say the name? Limit al Makalavim Meshenachayev Achikalim b'Shem. It's coming to teach us about someone that curses his father or his mother, that he has to use the name of Hashem.
Why didn't anybody say parents' name? Because they thought that was extra to call a parent by their name. Why do you have to go with the word?
I don't know if he has to use his parent's name.
No, I'm
Maybe
saying
he just says his father.
Why is the interpretation we're talking for shame Hashem? Why isn't it just cursing the parent in their name? That's what
you want to read this differently.
Yeah. Well, that's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's us.
Dr. Stein is asking that maybe the way to read the Mishnah is someone that curses his father and mother is only chayav if he curses them with the name referring to their parent's name. It's a creative shot.
Not just a pretty face. Not just a pretty face.
What type of baseball card are you going to make now?
Oh, all star.
Okay. it doesn't fit with the future with the Gemara, but okay.
It was just a side.
Okay.
It's a shot.
Tana Rabbana was taught in the Brisa ish. When it says, what's the pasuk? It says ish. No, ish asher yakalel es aviv v'imay. A man that curses his father and his mother, put to death. So matan lemer ish. Why does it have to say a man? The rabbis is coming to include bas tumtum v'androginus. It's interesting because one time it said ish is coming to include non-Jews. Remember that? Ish. Right? Here it says no, it's coming to include even someone that's not really a man, like a girl, or if it's someone that's a tumtum or an andrega. It can't be the father is a tumtum or andrega. They can't have children probably.
Yes.
It's the child is a tumtum or andrega. It's the same law would apply.
This is your comma.
Yeah.
Kids, it should say bas comma.
Right.
Superman.
Yeah. I added a comma in my Gemara to read it properly. Asher yikalas avivima that curses his father and his mother. Ainli ala aviv v'imay. I would only know that it curses both. Aviv shlai imay. Father, but without the mother. Imay shlai aviv. Or mother without the father. I mean, how do you know the same law applies? Tamalaymar aviv v'imay kilel. Now, what happened over here was that the word kilel in our verse was closer to the word aviv. The word kilel in this verse, in the end of the verse, is imay is closer to the word kilel, the opposite. So it's coming to teach me that each one is independently a prohibition. Cursing the father or the mother doesn't have to curse both. Dam of boy. Aviv imay kilel, dam of boy. Aviv kilel imay kilel. That's coming to teach me that each one is independent. That's Rabbi Yeshia's way of getting to this point. However, Rabbi Yonasan says, Rabbi Yonasan, his view is that whenever it says and in the Torah, it always means or. Unless the Torah says clearly together, both of them together. The Torah will specify yachtav. If it wants it to be both together, then it will have to say yachtav. Otherwise, Rabbi Yonasan's view is that it always means or. All right. So according to him, I don't need this limud of aviv kilal, imay kilal. I don't need all of that. It's automatically. The vs means or, according to Rabbi Yonasan. Maisiumas is put to death, beskila. The death penalty here is stoning. Atam beskila, you think that it's stoning. Maybe it's one of the other three. It says Nemerkan damav vayven amalan demayam bam. It says over here damav vay. It says his blood is in him. It also says that demayam bam by the oiv and yadaini. The blood is in them. Malam beskilaf kam beskila. So we learn a gzeir shava that just like over there it's stoning, also over here it's stoning. Aina shamanu. I got the death penalty. That's haraminayim. Where does it say that you're not there's a prohibition? It says, do not curse Elikim. Now, what is Elikim? Elikim can mean a judge, and Elikim can mean Hashem. We'll see that this is a machlekes. But whatever the case is, if his father's a judge, then he can't curse a judge. So good. And if his father's a king, it says he can't curse a king. How do you know they can't curse the father if he's not a judge or a king? Amrit. So we're going to learn like this. We're at the Dan Binyan now. We're going to make a precedent. Mishnayim from both of them. Leiri Nasi Krei Dayan. The king is not like the judge. Leiri, the strength of the king is not like the strength of the Leiri Dayan Kari Nasi. And the strength of the judge is not like the strength of the king. What is the difference between them? What's this? Each one has its own quality. Leiri Dayan Kari Nasi. The judge is not like the king. Because a judge, you have to follow his verdict. You don't have to follow the verdict of a king, you have to follow something else. But if he says the halacha is like this, it doesn't mean you have to do that. Yeah, he's not a judge. However, the strength of the king is not like the judge. You can't rebel against him. If he tells you to do something, then you have to do it. I'm not talking about a psak. Yeah, we're making a difference between a psak halacha versus he's giving you instruction. You can't violate his instruction. For dayan, like the judge, you don't have to follow the instructions. The judge says, "Would you mind bringing me that book?" You know, you can say no. The king says that would be a death penalty, right? The judge, when he says you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos, then that's the psak you have to follow. But you don't have to follow instructions. It's not a Shabbos Shabbat, but what's common between them, Shem Ba'amcha, they both belong to your nation, and you're not allowed to curse them. You can't curse them. We have two precedents. We do a comparison. Both of the common denominators that they're Jewish. You can't curse them. So the father's also Jewish. You can't curse them. The Gemara says, 1 second. Both of those are significant people. They're very important. So I have another verse that says, you can't curse someone that's deaf. Even people that are degraded, even them you can't curse. So that would include everyone. 1 second. The Cheresh has its own independent reason. Because he's deaf, you're not allowed to curse him. 1 second. But a king and a judge are not deaf, and you're not allowed to curse them. And that can't be the factor that's making it the prohibition. But the factor for the king and the judge, that's because they're important people. So the deaf person says that can't be the factor. So b'chasar adin, this is going to revolve around the logic. Going to say leiri zeh. Well, the quality of this is not the quality of that. Leiri zeh. Quality of this is not the quality of that. So outside of Shabbos shebehem, but there is a common denominator. Shehim ba'amcha, they're Jewish. But the muzal kalasan, and you can't curse them. I'll bring also the father that he's amongst the nation, and you can't curse him. It's an interesting way of saying, but according to the Tzad Shaveh, they're both unique. Either a judge or this or LMK nichtav kra oy elikim b'cheresh oy nasi b'cheresh elikim lamali minalin gufetnin in l'aviv. Says we have an extra verse. Nichtav kra. The pasuk could have said oy elikim b'cheresh or nasi b'cheresh. It didn't need to have elikim and the nasi and the cheresh. So because we have something extra, meaning legufetnin la'aviv. So we're going to say that this applies. Can't curse the father. All of this works if you say elikim means a judge. But if elikim means Hashem, then then you don't have any of this thing what we just said. The Tanya was started in Brisa. Elikim chal div Rabbi Shmuel. That's Rabbi Shmuel's view. Kiva elikim kodesh. Kiva says elikim is kodesh. The Tanya was also started in Brisa. Rabbi Blessed ben Yaakov has heard le'mavarch Hashem minai and tam elikim le'sekala. Rabbi Blessed ben Yaakov says he follows Rabbi Akiva. It says you can't curse Hashem from the pasuk elikim le'sekala. According to the one that says elikim means a judge. Can't judge a judge, for sure you can't curse Hashem. Good. But if it means you can't curse Hashem, it means chol mikaydesh. How can we can't learn chol mikaydesh? Well, we start off with saying that we're gonna. We can learn a kal v'chaymer from kodesh, which means that it means Hashem from the judge. If you can't curse the judge, you can't curse Hashem. But if it means you can't curse Hashem, it's going to tell me that you can't curse the judge. Maybe only not allowed to curse Hashem, but a judge you are allowed to curse. You can lichtav kra leisekel with one lamed. My leisekalel. What does it mean? You can't curse with two lameds. Shema mina tarti. We learned from this two things, both the judge and Hashem. Yeah. Okay, let's leave it over here.
You say judge means Sanhedrin judge, no, it means so.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.